Hello, guys. Welcome back to another episode of College Football Forecast. I'm Caleb, and this is my brother Brady. And today, we're going to be reviewing last week's college football games and predicting this week's college football games in the Big Ten East and some more of the other premier games across the country. All right, so last week, us as Buckeye fans paid attention to the Ohio State versus Rutgers game. We actually went to it, and Ohio State ended up winning that game 52-3. Which is a lot like we predicted.
Yeah.
I knew we were going to run away with it. But what I took out of that game is that our defense looked a lot better than we did against Oregon State. And Haskins now is a household name in college football, I think. People have him on their radar now. And Nick Bosa is an absolute freak, and he's one of the best players in the country, if not the best player in the country.
Yeah, I agree. As I said, we were at the game. There's just not much to say about that game. It was one of those games, just filler game. Rutgers had no chance.
Right. All right. Another Big Ten East game last week was Western Michigan traveling to Michigan. Michigan won that game 49-3 in another blowout game. Predicted that one right too. I thought Michigan would come back strong after getting embarrassed by Notre Dame. And they did. They took care of business, killed them. Shea Patterson had a better game. He had 3 touchdowns, 2 to receivers, which they had not had a wide receiver catch a touchdown pass in a year since their game from Western Michigan. And I think Patterson threw 3 touchdowns and no interceptions that game, so he looked a lot better that game.
Yeah, I agree. I saw a little bit of the game, like you said. Wide receiver got a touchdown finally. And another one where there's not much to say about that game either.
Correct. All right. One of the games I was kind of wrong about last week was Penn State at Pittsburgh, a night game. Though it was 7-6 Penn State at halftime, Penn State ended up coming out extremely strong in the second half and won the game 51-6. I predicted that the game would be a little closer than that. I still thought Penn State would win, but they impressed me in that game. I'm not super high on them. Still not that high, but that definitely made me change my mind a little bit. McSorley looks really good, and they have another running back receiver hybrid player, KJ Hamler, that also looked like he could be good this year and definitely in years to come.
Yeah, I thought Penn State looked pretty good, definitely. I actually predicted Pitt to win that game, and they didn't, obviously.
Caught up on them there.
And, but I think now that they might be better than Michigan State. I don't think they're the worst out of the 4, Big Ten East teams. And I thought that definitely looked good, and I think they could be a force to be reckoned with.
Yep. And the game I was completely wrong with last week was the Michigan State at Arizona State game. That was a 10:30 Eastern Standard Time kickoff. I said that it could be a trap game, but I did end up picking Michigan State to win, and they did. They got upset 13-16. They kind of had the lead and had the majority of the control of the game for most of it until the end, where in the fourth quarter, Arizona State was able to throw the ball anywhere they wanted to and was moving the ball very successfully. I guess I don't think that loss necessarily means Michigan State is a bad team. I think that they're young and they're improving, and that game had trap game written all over it. So it sucks that they couldn't come out with that win, but I think they'll still be tough to beat in the Big Ten East.
Yeah, that's a hard game for them. They have to go all the way across the country to play Arizona State. I still think that's probably the best game for them to lose. If they win the rest of the games, obviously they're still in. They're sure to. They dropped down way too much in the rankings, in my opinion. I don't think they should have dropped down to 25. They only lost by 3, and it was a good game, all on the road. But I see them not losing too many more and coming back strong next week.
I agree. Okay, let's see here. Maryland played against Bowling Green this previous week, won 45-14. They started off 2-0, which is incredibly good for them, with them going through troubles with their coaches and everything. And yeah, I predicted that one right. Killing Bowling Green isn't that special of a thing, but congrats to the Terrapins.
Yeah, after what I saw last week against Texas, I had to pick Maryland in that game. They've been definitely playing good considering the circumstances this year, and I think they should have a decent season.
Brady, what do you think about that Georgia-South Carolina game last week?
Oh my gosh. Well, that was a little bit disappointing. A lot of people were hoping that South Carolina could pull up an upset, but it wasn't even close. Georgia handled them that game for sure.
Right, they ended up winning 41-17. I did say Georgia would win, but I did think it would be a close game. It really did impress me. I was shocked at how they were able to control the ball by running it dominantly. I think Georgia is definitely going to be hard to beat this year in the SEC. I can't see them losing to anybody except for maybe Alabama, and that should be a good game.
Yeah, Georgia's good. I don't think there's many teams in the country that are actually better than them. That was all I had to add on.
Okay. And in one of the craziest games of the week, Clemson went to Texas A&M to play a true road game. Eventually, they ended up winning 28-26. And I got everything about that game right. I thought it would be a close game, and I did predict Clemson to win. But watching that game, I think Texas A&M, kind of won the game. I mean, there was a weird call where Texas A&M receiver caught a ball, ran with it in the fourth quarter, and as he was going down, he fumbled. I think it was 90% chance that the ball went out of bounds and not through the end zone, but the refs called the ball that it went through the end zone on the field, so they called it a touchback Clemson ball. And if they hadn't called it that way, and it would have been fumbled at the 3, Texas A&M would have scored because they were moving the ball really easy. And they would have definitely won that game against Clemson, especially since they scored another touchdown at the end of the game with time expiring to try to get a 2-point conversion to tie it up and force overtime, but they weren't successful in that 2-point conversion. And, yeah, you know what? I'm not nearly as impressed with Clemson as I was with Georgia. As Clemson's D-line is one of the best, if not the best D-line in the country. Their secondary is just not that great. Their running game I don't think is that great, and their offensive line doesn't impress me that much either. They have some good receivers, and I'm not completely sold on their quarterback situation yet, but I don't think Clemson. I think they'll probably make it, but I don't think they'll win a game in the playoff for the second year in a row.
Yeah, I thought Clemson would be good this year, but I don't think they're as good as I was predicting. I did think this was going to be a close game. I don't know about that close. I thought Clemson was going to still win. I didn't think Texas A&M would have a 2-point conversion to tie it at the end. But I thought Texas A&M looked better in that game, especially towards the end. And hopefully Clemson will lose another one before.
Lose a single one, not another one. But yeah.
Well, yeah, I'll lose another opportunity. Yeah, you know what I mean.
All right, up next we're going to preview the Week 3 games in the Big Ten East. Brady, you can start us off here with the Rutgers game against Kansas.
Well, these are two of the worst teams in Power 5 for sure. Probably the worst teams in both of the conferences that they're in. But I'm definitely gonna take Rutgers in this one because they just played Ohio State, so this is a huge downgrade from Ohio State. They get to have an easier game, and Kansas' defense is horrible. It's probably the worst defense in the entire college, and even worse than all the they're probably worse than FCS defenses even. And they gave up 427 rush yards like 3 years ago to Oklahoma. And Samaje Perine, he broke the record, and that's how bad their run defense is. So I see Rutgers winning this one and putting up quite a few points. Decent.
Yeah, I think Rutgers is a better team than Kansas, but they do play the game at Kansas, and that's a pretty far drive / plane ride from New Jersey, and he made the point that he thought Rutgers would win this game because they are facing easier competition than the last game. I think that them playing Ohio State the previous week will hurt them because, they got banged up. Like, they're hurting right now. Their quarterback went down, and he was a true freshman. He should be a senior in high school right now. So now they're playing somebody that, presumably worse than him. So, obviously, I won't be watching this game. It doesn't excite me very much, but I think with Rutgers being on the road and coming off a rough game against Ohio State, I'm going to have the Jayhawks winning this one by 4. All right, Brady, go ahead and kick off this Temple-Maryland game.
Okay, so Maryland's been doing good this year. I'm going to stick with picking them. Temple, they should put up a fight. Temple's not an easy game, definitely. I think it should be a close game. But I think that Maryland will pull it off by 4 points in this one.
Brady, I don't think you did your research because Temple is a really bad football team. They're worse than Kansas and Rutgers by far. I believe they lost to Villanova recently, which isn't even a Division I program in football. Yeah, they are. Temple's definitely a basketball school, and I think Maryland should start off 3-0, very easy this game, and probably have a decent chance to become bowl eligible eventually. All right, Brady, go ahead and preview that Michigan game.
Okay, so Michigan versus SMU. Obviously, we just saw SMU get rolled by TCU last week on Friday night, and I'm gonna obviously take Michigan in this one. It's SMU versus Michigan. There's no way I'd ever pick SMU in that game, and I'm definitely taking Michigan after seeing Shea Patterson throw 3 TDs and no picks. He had a pretty good game. He impressed me a little bit, so I think Michigan's easily going to take this one.
Yeah, I would pick Michigan to win either way, but it's kind of another example from that Rutgers-Kansas game. SMU traveling from Texas to Michigan, coming off a game where they got beat up by, a big school in TCU. I think Michigan should have another easy win and should have another chance to have their new guys get in rhythm with the offense. Shea Patterson should look good again, and hopefully for them, become more confident and, excite their fans a little bit. And for another one of the worst Big Ten East games of the week, Kent State travels to Penn State. Like a lot of these games so far, should be extremely easy for Penn State to win this one. Kent State obviously isn't a great school just because, they're just not as big as a school. And there's nothing much to say. Penn State wins big.
Yep, should be one of those, 55-3 type games. Kent State's never been good at football, and they never will be. So Penn State's easy to pick in this one.
Absolutely. All right, Harry. Kick off this big game of the week right here.
Ohio State TCU.
Yeah.
All right. Well, so they're playing at a neutral site stadium for Ohio State TCU. It's in Texas, in Dallas, so it really is pretty much an away game for us. Last week, we saw TCU and SMU face off. TCU won that game by 30, but early they were kind of sloppy. TCU's defense will be good, and Ohio State's offense is really good, as we saw in the past 2 weeks, even though we obviously haven't played anyone too special. But I'm going to say Ohio State's going to take this one, but it's going to be close. It's going to come down to a fourth quarter. It's going to be really close in the fourth quarter, and we're going to win by a field goal.
Final score.
Final score, I'm going to take Ohio State 28, TCU 25.
I like it. All right, for as a Buckeye fan, for all these big Ohio State games, I always get really nervous. And in my head, I know I've watched enough Buckeye football. I've followed recruiting in the past few years to know that if we played TCU 10 times in this game, we'd probably beat them 9. But I'm always nervous. And a couple of things I'm looking at this game is how our young linebackers and members of the secondary play against a very fast TCU offense that has some explosive receivers and a dual threat quarterback in Sean Robinson. I think Ohio State holds a steady advantage up front. We average around 320 on the offensive line, and they average like 250 on the defensive line. So we should be able to control that. And then reverse roles, we have one of the best defensive lines in the country, the best defensive lineman in the country. And, they actually do have a pretty good offensive line, but I think if Nick Bosa and Chase Young, Draymond Jones, Robert Landers on our defensive line can get loose, it should help our linebackers, safeties, and corners out to be able to make plays and hopefully not have to guard their receivers for as long of a time. So, as I am nervous, but I will take Ohio State in this one, 42-23. I think it stays pretty close in the first half, but in the third quarter, I think we come out after making some halftime adjustments, and I think we jump on them pretty good. All right, for some of the other good games this week outside of the Big Ten East, one of them we're going to do is West Virginia, NC State. But unfortunately, that game has been delayed to a different date due to the hurricane coming in, and obviously we hope the best for all the people in the South that could be affected by this. Sending our prayers that way. Hopefully it's not that bad of a hurricane, but who knows? It's kind of a scary thing. But so other than that, there's a couple more games that interested us a little bit. Boise State goes to Oklahoma State, and I believe Oklahoma State is a favorite in that one. Haven't watched either of the two play this year, but all I know is that whenever Boise State plays a Power 5 school, they come out ready to play. Ever since they had Chris Peterson, they took those games really seriously, and they always they found some weird trick plays to run, and they usually find a way to win those games. So just based on that, I think Boise wins 28-20 in that one.
Yeah, Boise State's one of the best non-Power 5 teams in the country. And Oklahoma State, last year they were good, but they lost their quarterback, and he was one of the best passing quarterbacks in the country, Mason Rudolph. It is at Oklahoma State, but I think that Boise State will pull it off by a field goal in this one, 31-28.
31, gotcha. So we agree on that one. I didn't know if we would or not, but so far we only disagree on one this week, I think, right?
Yeah.
All right.
It was.
So you can go ahead and what's your prediction on this USC Texas game?
All right. So USC Texas. Texas losing to Maryland week 1 is pretty scary. Not gonna lie, but I think this is gonna be a bounce back game for them. It is at Texas. We saw USC. They got beat last week by Stanford 17-3, I think it was. And USC's quarterback still does look good so far this year. JT Daniels taking over Sam Darnold's spot. But I think Texas is going to take this one. It being at Texas this week, I think they're going to take this one by a touchdown.
Okay, I like it. I figured we would preview this game because it's been fairly hyped up on TVs. You see that commercial over and over again. But in my opinion, I think these two teams are horrible. I think they both suck. I won't watch this game personally. But I think Texas is more talented this year than USC. Although that's not saying much in my opinion. I don't think either will win bowl games. But the game's also at Texas, and I think they probably have a better coach. So I think they'll probably win that game, probably 24-13. And that'll probably wrap up our predictions for the week. I think I tied up the record against Brady here, so we have a tie record going into this week, and with one game difference, somebody will take the lead going into week 4. We thank you guys for watching. Please like, subscribe, and comment what you guys think will happen this week in college football. Thank you.